Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strength Students Podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Carty, and your co-host, Steve Carty. And that's it. That's all we have today. Your co-host, Nicholas Scopoletti, is not here today. He was kidnapped by werewolves. Just kidding. He was not kidnapped. He's still in good health. Just couldn't make it today. But we have a great show for you guys today. We have Luke Summers and Tex McQuilkin from Power Athlete HQ. Power Athlete, which was founded by CEO John Welborn, who ran the CrossFit football website for a while. 10-year NFL vet, super badass when it comes to strength training, strength and conditioning. So if you guys don't know who Power Athlete is, go look him up. Go Google him. You could definitely find him. But before we start here, some announcements. Make sure, as always, you guys go subscribe to our YouTube page. Got plenty of video content on there. Go like us on Facebook. Go follow us on Instagram and follow us to our cars. Go check us out on Twitter. Everything is at Strength Students Podcast. And please, please, please go leave a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher, and go ahead and subscribe to those as well. That way you guys never miss any of your favorite strength and conditioning podcast episodes from the Strength Students Podcast. What other announcements we got here? We have our arm accessory video on YouTube, our arm farm video, so go check that out. Some of our, what we feel are our best arm accessory movements and lifts for building bigger arms, stronger arms, and just overall getting jacked arms, yeah. And then we also just posted to social media our 6-week program to bigger, stronger arms. Yo, check this thing out. It's completely free. 6 weeks, 2-day split. Go check it out. It's either on our Facebook or Instagram. Either one. Go check it out. And that is faux free. So if you guys try that out, let us know. Send us some feedback so we can see what's up. I think it's about time to slide into those DMs and send you guys some news. What we have this week for our news that we're gonna slide into your DMs and send you this week is an article by Luke Summers from Power Athlete, who's one of our guests today, talking about the 7 primal movements and also some of the movement principles and training principles that Power Athlete kind of lives by. And we actually talk about it in the episode. So whether it's before or after the episode, make sure you check that article out, because Luke kind of goes into what each of those primal movements are and what their principles are. Kind of a little foreshadowing, because that's what we talk about in our episode today. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. We're going to definitely post that article to our Facebook as well as on our Instagram, and we're also going to link it in the show notes. So make sure you guys check that out. So yeah, we're going to hop into it here. We had our 2 guests today are from Power Athlete Radio, as I mentioned before, Tex McQuilkin and Luke Summers, 2 extremely smart and talented strength coaches that we had a damn good time talking to. So we got to talk to them, and we hope you guys enjoy this episode. We had fun with it, and yeah, take a listen. Want more of the Strength Students Podcast? Go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher. Stitcher, I just met her.
7 years old, and she's like, "Wow!" If you guys don't know what that is,
she is not.
She is. It's fucking. That's a Bud Light commercial, isn't it?
Yeah,
or is it Miller Lite?
No, it's Bud.
It's Bud Light from
Bud Light from the 90s,
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? But that's like the golden era. Like, listen.
No. Like, people get caught in their haircuts or their clothes. Luke is caught in his first beer.
No, first beer was Busch Light. First off. Second off, I'll tell you where I'm caught is when I peaked. Because I peaked in high school. We all know this, right?
Common trend.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it was working then, it's working now. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that's a pretty nice hookah shell necklace you got on.
Yeah, frosted tips, puka shell necklace. That's how we roll.
You still wear your like high school Letterman's jacket and shit?
Yeah, only
on Fridays.
Well, only on Fridays, and only if it's cooler than 80 degrees.
It's Casual Friday.
It's like Hawaiian shirt, then my high school jersey, then my Letterman's jacket. I wish it was a joke, but it's not. So,
and a jock.
anyways, sorry to hijack that with the old.
Just be you.
Oh, by the way, I'm a Budweiser sponsored athlete, right?
No, stop.
No, I'm not. I just like the fucking commercials.
I looked at Tex's face. He's like, nah. Just full like Under Armour, Nike Dry Fit Pro, like Bud Light decked out, like throwing javelin and shit.
That's us.
It's called swing oil. Yeah.
Look it up. But yeah, we are here with Luke and Tex from Power Athlete HQ. And if you guys could just go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tex, we'll start with you, and then Luke, you could go after.
Oh, wow. Every other show, we've always begun with Luke. So, guys, I appreciate it.
Switching it up.
Just quick. Yeah, real quick hitter, since this is a limited show. We're used to jabbing on for like 2-3 hours on Power Athlete Radio. So just to keep it brief, essentially, Tex from Katy, Texas, a lacrosse player, had the opportunity to play some D3 ball and walk into zero strength and conditioning, but I performance whore. All I grew up knowing was play your sport, run as fast as you can, and lift weights, right? Texas football, and walked into a fitness center, no weight room, but took everything I knew to have success, 4-year starter, 3-year captain, and then got the opportunity to become a grad assistant lacrosse coach. But I was recruiting kids that had an intuition for the game and a feel for it that I never developed. I didn't play long enough. Picked a stick up when I was 16, so I decided to take on the responsibilities of the strength and conditioning coach so I could still have an impact and empower these kids that were my former teammates, still my friends, but they became my athletes. And my first session with the team, again, we had a fitness center, no weight room. I asked them to kick up into a handstand so we could work on some upper body strength. And then one of my boys freaking tore his rotator cuff. Senior year gone. His last opportunity to play the game. I took it away from him because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So this is September 2009, got on the internet and found John Wellborn. From there, I invested every dollar I had as a grad student, went to the former CrossFit football seminar, and was exposed to John Wellborn, Rafael Ruiz, and my first, true exposure, not the old ball coach, but strength and conditioning. So the opportunity to actually look at demands of a sport or a training goal, take a look at where the athlete stands, and develop them to get them prepared for those demands. So in a nutshell, from there, just coached at Georgetown University, University of Texas, and then traveled the world, 6 continents, 24 countries, and freaking here we are, I guess 8-9 years later from that moment.
Word.
It's a lovely story. Lovely.
That was fast.
Lovely story.
That was dope.
Mine's not nearly as dope, but I'm Luke, work with Tex here at Power Athlete. Grew up playing sports, played football primarily, 3rd grade, strapped on the helmet, and fucking started cleaning people out then, and did that until I was 18, and that's when I peaked in high school. But no, played some baseball, played some basketball, all fucking just youth sports. But once I got into high school, started to specialize, and actually did a little gymnastics there. But I'm on the athlete side. Ended up wanting to pursue playing football at the D3 level in college, but my senior year developed a hypolordosis of the cervical spine and started to bruise up my brainstem, and it started to swell, and I started to black out during contact and shit. It was just scary shit, I guess, for my parents. I didn't give a fuck. I mean, I was just a chick kid, 18 years old, like, let me play football. But long story short is couldn't play, and but had trained, really never trained, because I was always fucking like the ogre big kid, so I never really had to train. I just was able to outpower and outrun everybody until I was about 14, 15 years old, and everybody caught up. And then that's when I started lifting weights. that became the practice through 18 years old. Going to college, you still just kind of lift weights because you got to get jacked and pick up chicks and shit. So that's what I did. And then after that, I fell into the trap of a corporate gig, stuck in a cubicle and wanting to get back in shape. So what do? You fucking run a marathon or triathlon. So
tales old as time.
Yeah, this is like 2005 or 2006, something like that. And I don't know, you probably can't tell, but I'm 5'10", 200 pounds, and I'm fucking built like a T-Rex, and I sink like a stone. So the triathlon wasn't really like, I'm not a naturally built triathlete, you know what I mean? But I did it, and I trained for it for a year, and that's kind of what got me back into at least dedicated training until a buddy of mine, 300 came out, and a buddy of mine joined CrossFit because he made the connection. He's like, dude, you got to try this shit. I'm like, bitch, I'm a triathlete. I am fit as fuck. I will do this. And I kicked in the door, went to a CrossFit class, and just got my ass handed to me, right? So that shifted I guess the training paradigm at the time. Is I went from this like long, slow distance swim, bike, run deal to this CrossFit thing. And I was concurrently playing flag football relatively competitively, kind of like nationally ranked type deal. We would travel for tournaments, shit like that. And what ended up happening over the next couple of years is I got really fit. I got really lean. I dropped like 16 pounds, and I was just getting my shit pushed in on the flag football field. And my buddy, my training partner, is like, dude, you look like an anorexic high school girl. Fucking lift some heavy weights. I found this program called CrossFit Football. So I started following that CrossFit Football gig. And this is back in, I guess, 2008, 2009, something like that. And guess what? I got bigger, stronger, faster, and started smoking people again on the flag football field, which I don't know if any of you guys have played flag football, like USTFL. It's full contact except for ball carrier quarterback. So I played center. So you're fighting, man. It's fun. It's a good time. But it made a huge difference. And then about a year later, our CrossFit gym hosted the CrossFit football seminar. And, I was just so geeked out at this point. I'm still in my corporate gig. I'm working 6 a.m. classes, then the 4 hours after work, and I'm coaching people through this stuff. And I'm enjoying every second of it. And I'm reading everything I can. And I'm just scatterbrained obsessed, like trying to do everything at once. And I go to the seminar, and I'm not sure if any of your listeners or you all have had a chance to attend the CrossFit football seminar at that point. But it was John, Ralph Ruiz, and a guy named Ben Oliver, and they and then a couple of assistants as well. John's wife was one of them, but the information was laid out in such a way, it was just fucking off the shelf. You open it up, and here was what it was. It's like, keep it simple. It's a long road. There's no fucking shortcuts. You got to lift some heavy weights to get stronger, and then as you get stronger, run real fast in your training. And guess what you're gonna come out like? A big, strong, fast guy. So I just felt like all this hack shit I was putting together, I got lied to. And it was like a turning point for me. And I just remember walking away from that seminar, and my training partner at the time, who called me the anorexic high school girl, was there. And I'm like, dude, I think I want to do that. So unbeknownst to me, I was a memorable attendee. John dropped a post, who's the guy who founded the CrossFit Football Deal, CEO of Power Athlete now, on his Talk to Me Johnny blog, like, hey, it was, are you hurt, are you injured? And there was a sentence in there, something about hey, I need some help out in Newport Beach. If you know anybody who wants a shitty job with shitty pay to work a lot of hours, let me know. Put my hat in the ring. Long story short, landed that fucking job. Hilarious. You want to hear a little more about that? Tex and I go in a very long detail how irrational this decision was at the time for me, but I did it. And like Tex said, it got me here. It got me on the staff. I've traveled the world. I've had the chance to coach thousands of athletes, the Power Athlete methodology. And, I haven't looked back. It took me out of Chicago. I moved where I was born and raised and played sports in high school and college, everything like that. Moved to Newport Beach, California for 5 years. And now here we are, Power Athlete. Started off in 2013 formally. We've moved our headquarters here in Austin, Texas, just at the beginning of this year, which is what year is it? 2017, right?
I had to think about that.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. Tex, did I miss anything? Oh, well, I have one detail. I forgot to mention that in high school.
Oh, God.
My teammate, Owen Daniels, and I won a state championship, IHSA 8A. So I got that going for me.
Andy Dalton torched us for 60, and then he won the state championship my senior year. So
and I started him last week in fantasy, and he fucked me. So there you go.
So you guys are pretty close with both of those NFL players, is what you're saying. Do you have like a banner up at the gym with that on it? Like,
yeah, me and OD, like we just won the Super Bowl as well, which is pretty important. So we got.
For the record, episode 209, Power Athlete Radio. Literally, Luke and I sit there for 3 hours and talk about it and our origin story. And we read the email exchange. John and Luke, and it's pretty freaking hilarious.
So not only is that really a shameless plug for that podcast, but seriously, if you've ever, like, if you want to hear like a terrible life decision by a 27-year-old guy who like has a great job, promising future. Oh, so you know what I'm talking about. Yes. And you're reading this email with no promises, no fucking anything, and you're like, yeah, sounds great.
And typos.
Typos.
Anyways, I guess that's us in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Awesome. Steve and I played high school football together as well. I got to lose 2 state championships. It was awesome. So I feel you.
Playoffs.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah,
and see, awesome. Look at this. The bond of high school football. You just can't break it, bro.
You can't.
That's where you peak, so that's where the bond happens. So talk a little bit about Power Athlete now. For those listeners who may have not heard of Power Athlete HQ, talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I'll start with kind of the canned version. Power Athlete is a worldwide strength and conditioning program that we offer products that essentially empower performance. So taking a performance-based approach to nutrition, to training, and that is the application of and education of for coach and athlete. Does that make sense? So I guess we find ourselves often barraged by a request for feedback on certain products that don't really fit within that performance perspective. It's some sort of vanity bullshit or gimmick or shortcut or whatever. And it's just like, well, what's the outcome? What's the desired outcome? And work it backwards. Does the roadmap seem like it fits? So we have wed our products to fit that pipeline. So what did I miss, Tex?
Unlocking athletic potential.
Yes.
So this is something that we see everywhere, and I know y'all have experienced this in your athletic careers, and it's the misapplication of a program. So whether it's the old ball coach who's applying the program that he did in high school, or, hey, I heard about this, or I went to a coach's clinic conference, and they gave me this program, and what does it look like? You know, it's built for an Olympic lifter, or it's built for University of Texas athletes, all 5 stars, but hey, look at us. We are 14, 15, 16 in our most developmental, anabolic phase of our entire life. So then it's the misapplication of that program. While it works for, the Vince Youngs and those all-stars, it's not exactly appropriate at that time. Mm-hmm. So we, I guess, take a different perspective to training, and that's the life cycle of the athlete. So that way we can break down and identify, all right, our athletes are here. We need to apply this program to get them to the next level, to truly unlock athletic potential. And once we lay a foundation, that's when really the fun begins as a strength and conditioning coach, and have that athlete really, express their athleticism, set them free on the field. But it takes time and effort. A lot of the foundation shit is boring. So we try to make it as entertaining as possible, right? With, Super Trooper quotes and all this. We're just trying to apply a perspective. Mm-hmm. So by narrowing a coach's focus or an athlete's focus, we essentially broaden their perspective. We're not typically working with Olympic lifters, but we use Olympic lifting as a tool. So we use sprints absolutely as a tool, but we're not training track athletes. So I'm not going to train a football player or a lacrosse player like to start out of blocks in a track athlete. Mm-hmm. So our starts become different, but I'm still going to sprint. So it's a lot of that kind of working, and we've gone to battle with sprint coaches, Olympic lifting coaches, but understand our objective is athleticism. Mm-hmm. Training is a means to an end towards their goal, wherever that sport may be, performance-based training, not necessarily getting numbers up or lifts up or times down.
Yeah, and this big thing is just fucking, fallacy of achievement or hero worship. And you got these guys who may be late adoption, and I'm going to consider anything over 20 years old. This is kind of a bold statement, and I'll probably change my opinion if you listen to me throughout
or
any other
30 minutes from now, yeah.
Whatever. But like late adoption. So I would consider early adoption like 13, 14 years old to training, because you're kind of that youth athlete, the most formative period of your life where you really, this is early life cycle is the most potent for a youth athlete, right? So if you're, that 20, 22, 23, and this varies, there's variables, listen, people. But the problem is the misapplication of training comes in this hero worship type deal, right? What the fuck is Vince Young doing? Oh, I'm just going to do what that guy does, right? No, that's not how it works. Literally, if you're training a 0 at 22 years old, you need to train like a 14-year-old athlete. Limited movement selection, right? Specific movement patterns, gradually progressed, overloaded, then work on speed, right? Proficiency. So it all comes down to that combination. And really, regardless of the athlete or individual, I don't care. The milestones are the same. It's the distance between those and how you get there that may vary in frequency, amplitude, other just general bullshit terms. It just means that we got to change some things up potentially to get to each milestone. The overall goal, like Tex said, is athleticism. And that is the ultimate parity for performance, right? Is your ability to seamlessly and effortlessly combine primal movement patterns through space to accomplish a known or novel task, right? And that is our working definition of athleticism, much like other training systems have, definitions of fitness or fucking strength, power. It's about proficiency, movement through space, for things you've rehearsed and things you haven't. That's when you recognize athleticism, that's what happens. And you see this shit on NFL game day all the time, right? Biased up for football, clearly. Maybe you guys are as well. Peaked in high school football, that type of thing. So.
And so I think that's a good segue to my next question. You mentioned that disconnect, right? Disconnect in programming. You guys are big with principles and laying the foundation of your training with principles, right? Like everything start with your principles. So where do you feel like that disconnect happens? And then where do the principles, specifically the principles that you guys lay the foundation with, how did those come into play into programming and training?
The principles came into play because walking into John Wellborn's world, right? This is a 10-year NFL veteran. He has trained at Westside. He trained Todd Rice in college, so a very proficient Olympic lifting coach at the college level. And then he walked into Rafael Ruiz's program and other strength and conditioning programs at the NFL level. So the dude had an extreme base of knowledge. And then you get
let's do a little. If you guys don't know who John is, John Wellborn, like I said, CEO, 10-year NFL veteran, Chiefs, Eagles, Patriots. Yes. Yeah, 100 career starts, 10 playoff appearances. Teabagged Warren Sapp. What else? No, teabagged Ray Lewis.
No, maybe he did.
Tea-kettled Ray Lewis. Teabagged Warren Sapp.
Lots of teas.
He's
can't keep them straight in.
Yeah.
But so it's through his, what Tex and I have been working on for the past 5 years is extracting all of the experience, commonizing it, and creating the method, right?
Turning it
for
into
replication.
Yeah, digestible, applicable information, right? Because understanding that the high schoolers or whoever your coaches or your listeners are working with, they're not going to do what John did at the NFL level. So they need to apply the program that he did in high school, which just happened to be, George Zangus, world-class powerlifting coach who happened to live down the street from John. So he had all these different coaches and experiences throughout his career, but he didn't have, to a degree, the God-given talent. He had to work as hard as he could and be on top of performance and nutrition and everything to be dialed in, to be 99.9% on all the time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that first-round pick. He was fourth round, second pick overall. You forgot to mention that one. We've heard the deal so much that it almost ingrained in us. But essentially, where the principles and then simplifying movement came into play was our ability to understand kind of John's perspective experience, and then be able to understand it to the umpteenth degree that I can walk into any program, Luke can walk into any Division I weight room, and we can stand a chance. They're not judging us as strength and conditioning coaches by our size or our pedigree as athletes. It's our ability to see movement, understand what to apply for an athlete, or, not only during that movement, specifically acute right there, but also chronic long-term, over 4 years or 1 year, however long that coach is. So it was our ability to kind of take all this information and put it into a system for us to be able to replicate and teach.
Yeah. And make connections.
And make connections between the movement. All movement is connected. One of the fallacies from all the travels is that people just see movements as a one-to-one, right? A squat is a squat. A front squat is a front squat. Just for example, but we need to understand that, the movement is movement. Mm-hmm. Squat is connected to the lunge. Lunge is connected to the step up. And then guess what sprinting is? It's a combination of lunging, stepping, lunging, stepping, lunging, stepping. So, and there's also movements that are neglected, like we just had Stu McGill on, and I saw y'all interviewed him as well.
Yeah.
The frontal plane. I'll tell you one thing I do appreciate the podcast is like the free knowledge bombs that we're getting, like first person.
Yeah.
And Stu McGill dropped the frontal plane, and he called it the injury prevention plane. So while we were stressing like multi-plane and talking about these things, I was neglecting the frontal plane. I was all about the transverse plane. So now hearing him describe it, it's like, all right, frontal plane is the injury prevention plane. Why? And then based off the principles that we've laid down. So Power Athlete, we have 9 principles. So these now I can walk into Westside and see, all right, well, this is this principle at play, this is this at play, and so on and so forth. So you can walk into any weight room and stand a chance. So that's the beauty of them. So it's almost like filters that we've created, and we didn't invent any of these. It's just a tool for any coach to be prepared to walk into any weight room or any sport practice even, and still see these things at play to understand.
Instead of getting wrapped around the axle about movement selection, sets, reps, percentages, right? Accessory work, movement sequencing, all this shit that's like people they just get lost in, and like here comes the pessimist. Tex is going to be like, oh, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like it does if you know what you're talking about, or if you don't know what you're talking about, it does matter because those are like the fundamentals. But as you start to understand, there's just some general boundaries and general rules you can stay within, and then it doesn't. It's more so now about these principles and making sure you're not doing your athlete a disservice by focusing,
ignoring them, or thinking that you can out-coach them or out-program them. No. So we simplified into 3 categories. First is going to be biological laws. You can't out-coach fucking biology. Let's get real.
Yeah.
And then the second category is going to be application. So these are essential guidelines. Remember, we are athleticism, we are performance-based. These applications are towards our goal. And then the final, we just call these 3 the Power Athlete principles. So they get to our primal movements, which I know you all wanted to discuss. Compensatory acceleration, because in the world of sports, speed is king. Everything we do in the weight room is going to be focused on speed, from squatting to Olympic lifting to sprint, change of direction, not just sprints or change of direction. Everything we're talking about is to build on speed. And then so we have primal movements, and then SAID principle. So that's specific adaptation to impose demand. That's kind of what I led off with when it was look at demands of the sport, look at your athlete, build your program. So I know CAT may not be in other strength and conditioning coaches' principles, but it is for us because we fucking love speed. I'm a speed freak. Mm-hmm. So it's it's a big part of it. So those simple 3 categories, again, any Olympic lifting coach or any speed coach or any strength and conditioning coach out there can use similar themes to these 3, but that's how we categorize our 9 principles to really kind of funnel perspective, funnel training, and then go into any weight room and discuss these things.
Gotcha.
Word.
And that's all we have to say about that.
Well, we can talk for hours, guys.
I know.
Yeah, sure.
I know. We could too. We feel you.
So essentially, your guys' point with the principles is these are the kind of rules behind training and programming versus the more technical things like reps, sets, volume, intensity, things like that.
Yep. Right. Well, here's the thing, man. If I take a 14-year-old kid and I put him on a a 5x1 at 70%, and his left foot is fucking toed out 70 degrees and his right knee is caving, and he gets his 5x1, does that make him better? No, right? So if he fucking grinds it out real slow and looks like a shitting dog, dog shitting razor blades, and no. But if you start to take these parameters and principles and start to align them and execute and apply, then you can make a case for a variety of sets and reps and movement selections, because we're falling within those general training guidelines that are universal, at least from our experience working with some of the better, some really sharp dudes that are, have spent a lot of time doing this shit, more time than Tex and I have probably been alive. And you start to see the common threads. And, this is after the fact, a year after Tex had advised and kind of accumulated these principles and narrowed it down. And we're still hearing this shit. Like you said, there's all sorts of great opportunities for guys like us who run podcasts to talk to guys like fucking Stu McGill. And then he's just validating your principles off of, after 30 years of teaching, and being truly like a master of his craft. And you're like, holy shit, Stu McGill. And there's another one to fucking.
So again, traveling and going to weight rooms. Look, I'm 5'8", freaking 200-pound white kid. I'm not going to impress anybody when it on my first impression, but it's the understanding the information, and then social intelligence, the ability to discuss this stuff at high enough level that you can catch anybody's ear. So by breaking this stuff down and making it simpler, I don't know if y'all have ever cracked open super training. I still recall the first time I ever did, and holy shit, I didn't think I could do this career, but it's going back to it. So our ability, to just kind of make this stuff entertaining, fun, simple to understand, and to then help any other coach out there talk to sport coaches. Okay, this is why you don't want to do a 2-mile conditioning test, Mr. Baseball Coach, and stuff like that, so they can effectively, truly empower their athletes' performance versus just passing a test or doing this or that. No, it's freaking performance. This is not condo tests or none of that bullshit. Again, that's probably the biggest battle that I've had to argue is conditioning tests. But even 1 RMs for a freshman in high school. Come on. The risk of injury, even if it's just one athlete over that coach's 10-year career, his career was ended because he wanted to do one RM to test where that kid is. One, that's not a true representation of that kid's abilities. And two, the risk. The kid's now he hates lifting, and now he had genetic God-given gifts that he can't express anymore because of this tweak or this injury. So there are so many things that you don't want to do once. So if a coach understands and then he knows an effective program to do in place or an effective test to do in place, it all comes down to simple principle-based stuff. So, we just see so many kids' performance. What's the opposite of being empowered, Luke?
Being unempowered.
Disempowered.
Correct.
Depowered?
We got to work on that one.
No, I think I nailed it out of the park. In my world, which is all that matters.
Not empowered.
Yeah, but taken away because of coaches' mistakes. And again, I during my intro story, that was me. And I still go up to this guy every single alumni game that we go and play now as teammates again to go kick some freshmen freaking ass. Marymount University, check them out. Just shameless plug on my school. But I think they have a weight room now and a strength coach, so I'm kind of jealous that they invested in some guy after I'm gone. But that's where my alumni dollars went. So it's just I don't want anyone's life to be impacted negatively by a coach who thinks they are applying the appropriate thing, but in reality, they are not.
Yeah, that was I'm not going to go in my whole story, but that was probably 90% of the reason why I do what I do. Same deal.
Oh, okay.
Same exact deal. I remember when I got out of school and I started training teams, I remember just trying to explain to coaches and trying to do the right thing. I can remember one coach in particular, I was coaching his team, I believe it was a football team, and he said his guys weren't big enough up top and they need to bench 3 times a week. I remember thinking, yeah, who needs their legs to play football?
Yeah, well, I mean, that That was to start in, back when I peaked high school, to start on varsity as a younger guy, you had to be able to bench over 315, and that was it. Like, then you'd get a look, you'd get the nod, So
really, you guys had you had like a set number to hit?
Unspoken, but yeah, and because
okay.
I was in tight with one of the coaches. He's like, if you get 315, we'll take a look at you. And I was going to we had like a strength staff. They were coaches, and they kind of like, I don't know. I can't say for sure because I didn't train with those guys. I was fortunate enough. My old man had a buddy who knew his stuff, and basically was like, yeah, I'll train him. And I told him what was up, and we did linear progression. We did some sprint stuff, but when he heard I needed to bench 315, he's like, all right, well, let's get you a 315 bench. You know what I mean? And we got and I got one, but we did everything else. But as a strength coach, there you go. Like you potentially compromise the global efficacy. Like, well, we know, as you know, like you need a lot more than just a big bench to play. But if this gets you an opportunity to play, let's work within that paradigm.
Yeah.
And let's play that game, but let's not do it at the expense of the other performance traits that are legitimate for football, right?
Right. There's plenty of dudes that were amazing in the weight room, and then you put them on the field, and they just had no clue what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a big part of I guess my connection when I took John's course back in 2009, because again, I was a football player with a stick. I wouldn't call myself a lacrosse player. My goal, my sole mission on the team was to run as fast as I could into the other guy and then knock him to the ground. That's it. It's serious. We had a rule on offense: don't fucking pass to me. Yeah. Sub me off. So seriously, but I had a job to do, and I did it very well.
Yeah.
But there were times, there were moments in which these 6'6" freaking bean poles. Again, there's not a lot of weightlifting associated with lacrosse, so I would go against guys that never touched a weight in their entire lives. But some guys, just looking, I should have been able to overpower them, but there were times that I couldn't. I was overpowered. I was outrun. And just looking at the guy, you're thinking, this shouldn't happen. So trying to solve that mystery as a strength and conditioning coach, that's always been a driving force for me. And really led to a lot of the breadth and the depth that we go into with the principles, like with our methodology course, and anytime we're really kicking and spinning wheels with any coaches on podcasts, is to not just say specificity, but to understand it and then put it in a digestible format that any coach, no matter if you're a sport coach who's given the weight room because it's not valued, you can understand how the setup and the execution of movements now can transfer to the field versus just, again, the one-to-one. Squat to get better at squatting, or squat's a squat. Now, a squat is actually your opportunity to increase the universal athletic position, the amount of force you can reduce in the field and then produce in that tackling or tennis serving position, all these different things. You can start to see this stuff and understand specificity, which is not like golfing or doing your golf swing with the cable machine like at the Globo gyms, right?
That's my favorite.
Adding weight to your baseball swing. No, right. that's going to do the exact opposites. But what can you do that does transfer to your swing and all this good stuff? That was a big part of, I guess, my driving force and mission was my failure as an athlete. So I failed as a coach. I failed as an athlete plenty of times. So we're, trying to set coaches and athletes up for success, and then in hopes that they dive deeper into this and they can start to really unlock and unfold the methodology deeper and almost better than we can, right?
Right.
So talking a little more on the actual training side of things, talk about your guys' 7 primal movements. That's a big thing. I did a lot of reading on your guys' main site and did a lot of watching on YouTube. And the 7 primal movements seem to be big with you guys. So from a training aspect, talk about those.
Sure. Yeah, bouncing back to that definition of athleticism we worked with, right? The ability to seamlessly and effortlessly combine primal movements, keywords, I already lost myself.
Through space.
That was so quick. You lost it so quick.
Yeah, that's how I work. Like I'm like, oh, squirrel, through space to accomplish known or novel tasks, right? So those primal movements, they're the fundamental movements that comprise all human movement. Okay, so within the lower body, the lower framework, your hips can really work in the most fundamental way. they can only rotate along 3 axes of rotation, right? So guys, math class, spoiler alert, I was a math major, computer science major, so
Nerd
I'm kind
alert.
of geeky, right? But I just slayed so many birds, you know?
I don't believe you.
I'm talking about hunting. So let's go back to calculus if you made it that far, right? And we have our 3 axes of rotation. An axis is an imaginary line that a body will rotate along, right? You integrate, deviate, or derivate, whatever. But it rotates. So you have your x-axis. That would be like a hip hinge. If a spike were to go through your right hip and out your left hip above the iliac crest, and you rotated it, kind of like a pig on a skewer, right? That's your x-axis. That's your bilateral hip hinge. This would be like squatting, RDLs, cleans, deadlifts, etc. Then we have our y-axis, right? That would be coming down through the top of your head, through your spinal column, and right kind of out the gooch, right? So now your hips kind of rotate this way. This is going to be what we generalize as a lunge, right? So we start to get some axial rotation in this manner. And then we have our step, which is our z-axis, which would be kind of shooting. If you're looking at a screen or a piece of paper, that's the one that used to shoot straight out at you. And this would be when your iliac crests change in elevation and your hips kind of rotate up and down. So that's all you can do. And then there's all sorts of variations in multi-primal type movements that utilize all 3 axes of rotation, but we're a sum of the parts. So let's master our ability to do those things in the lower body. Then as we connect we evaluate the upper body, we have our push and pull on the horizontal, and then our push and pull on the vertical. So those are 4 upper body primals and 3 lower body primals. And then when we talk about movement through space, because someone's gonna be like, oh, what about rotation or some other shit like that? This is our movement through space, okay? Utilizing that trunk to rotate, bend, and flex, right? So we do account for that. We just don't consider it a primal movement. It's a mechanism for combining these primals. Does that make sense? And then you have like your AB, adduction, and shit like that. But we're getting cute. Basically, what we're talking about is if you can start to build maximal proficiency with the simplest types of primals, and then overload from there in complexity, either in load, the multiple type of primals, combining primal movements, and planes of motion, that is ultimately how we cascade and gradiate and improve an athlete's ability to display athleticism, to unlock that athletic potential. But at the very least, we just need to put a barbell on our back, be able to do some squats. That's our primal X. We need to be able to grab a couple dumbbells or even just body weight and do some walking lunges right along that sagittal plane straight ahead, right? Then we need to be able to step up on a box, probably like a 10 to 15 inch box.
Yeah, I mean, I can go crazy all day on the step up. Just, it's not where we could talk about jump height is important. Mm-hmm. Step up height is equally as important that you set up properly.
Yes,
not
and
the
this
higher you step.
Yeah, so like people doing, like if you run it, listen, bros and broettes, if you're running a team, like a strength and conditioning gym, or you're a CrossFit coach or something, and you program 24-inch step ups, you're doing
out.
it wrong.
You're fucking out.
Go to the Google, put in power athlete step up. Is it out there?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Power athlete.
Watched it.
Sure. Okay. And the goal here is about proficiency, about control of not only the concentric stepping up, right, but working through the most fundamental version of the primal Z, right? And it's step into a high knee, and I don't know, link it up for your listeners. But then where people fall apart, literally fall apart, is controlling the reduction of force, stepping down. And I'd be willing to fucking bet that there's not one person that could, no, I don't like to speak in absolutes. Let's just say, I bet 9 out of 10 people, at least, cannot control to the point where they can reverse or stop their momentum using posterior chain, stepping off a 24-inch box. How's that? You want to bet?
Good. Why?
You want to bet?
So why is the important thing? So not just that it's an absolute, but I'll tell you why. It's because you lose that posture, right? So our objective, our mission of the step up is essentially to make you a faster, more powerful runner, sprinter. So that way we can then do speed training. We can have more of an effect because, one, you can reduce the force that you are producing and creating, right? It's not just about force production when it comes to running, right? You're freaking driving your foot into the ground, and you have to be stable enough to be able to control that leg, through the next phase. So Coaches are really caught up when it comes to speed training about, driving force into the ground. Awesome, great, I'm all in. But if an athlete can't control that force, what's going to happen, right? We get the freaking Mighty Ducks 2 kid that skates and can't stop.
I'll tell you what happens. Let me tell you what happens, you guys.
Or is this a softball story?
Maybe it is. Maybe I am in men's league, beer league, softball. Here's what happens is you get real fucking fast and you leg out a double and you turn it into a triple. But you go too fast. And as you start to decelerate, as you approach that third base, because you've obviously outrun the throw, you tweak a hammy and you tweak a groin, and now you're limping around like a fucking wounded animal in the Serengeti just waiting to be murdered. That's what happens. Because that's what okay, guys, I'm talking about myself. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
But
so if a 24-inch box, you would put your foot on the box, right? Give yourself a visual right now. You're putting that foot onto the box. You have a very high knee, and unless you're freaking a 6'6" or maybe even taller, then that high knee will go farther than you would ever step up or do high knees for a sprint, right? So essentially you are programming a poor movement pattern for you then to sprint with. So speed is a product of posture. If we want to raise our knee up, we need to maintain a solid posture. So then coaches are concerned about height or amount of weight here. When we're looking about proficiency, movement, posture, position, the execution, then we're only adding weight to challenge that execution, right? And drive some coordination and other adaptations, structural and neurological. But the step up, I'm freaking tangenting here, but it's just in my opinion, the forgotten primal. And it's so much more valuable and transferable to sport and sprint and speed and all this stuff than people give it credit for.
Then the back squat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not saying we don't like the back squat though.
Oh, that's another thing, right? Just as much as we talk about the step of the lunge, people think we don't love the back squat. We love the heavy barbell, overload it, right? Not just a goblet. We want to stress to progress. We're going to load our athletes up. 1, to drive as much adaptation in the smallest amount of time as possible, and 2, to see where the screws are loose. We want a heavy bar on their back so we can identify where they're collapsing, where they're weak, where they're breaking, because that's where they're going to break in a game. So it's important that we see this stuff in the weight room so then we can start to really build that program, the accessory work based off not our interpretation and say, and be a genius behind a spreadsheet and put all these pieces together. No, we're loading our athletes up. We're seeing where they are collapsing, weak or missing something in a movement that's stressful, that's heavy. And then we put it in the back end to try to correct and make our athletes more solid. So, yeah, that's just the 7 primal movements.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, as you evaluate that in terms of application in training, right? Okay, you have various implements: barbells, dumbbells, sandbags, kettlebells, center mass bells, slosh pipes, bamboo bars, bands, pulleys, whatever, anvils. I'm just kind of looking around our shop here, but you use these things as external loads to challenge your athlete's position through the execution of those primal movements, right? So that's ultimately when we talk about training and the application of training, it's just primal movements and stress, right? That's how we do it. And then the goal is to eventually hit an overload point.
Word. So just to give a quick visualization wrap up of that whole point, bullet points 1 through 7, what are the listed out primal movements?
You got vertical push, vertical pull, horizontal push, horizontal pull, your squat, your step, and your lunge.
Word.
Perfect. Nailed it.
And so combined with the principles that you guys talked about before and kind of the 7 primal movements, that's basically the foundation of how Power Athlete does things.
Yeah, man. I liken it to, because I didn't understand this shit when I first came out here. I mean, you want to talk about a hack shop. John had all this stuff locked in his head, and so did Ruiz and Ben. And I'm like, okay, where's the fucking, I don't know, operations guy. Where's the manual? And they're like, right here, we got it. We don't need no manual. I'm like, I need a fucking manual. So I had to kind of crack it out. And then once I came to this point, it was like Neo seeing the Matrix. You could look at any program, and you could, as soon as you could look at volume, intensity, primal, plane, load, overload, like that, those were it. And then everything became the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was that's how the common filter to look at a lot of the stuff that's available online and in the internet and in books, I'm told.
So just kind of wrapping it up here, talk about you guys have a symposium coming up soon and then an online course, I believe. So just kind of throw that out there, talk about that and what that is.
All right, listen up, listeners. I'll start with the symposium because I've got this fucking bit on lockdown. December 8th, 9th, and 10th in Austin, Texas. Power Athlete is hosting a fundraising event, okay? We have 13 speakers coming out. It's 3 days. We're going to open up with Andy Stumpf. Andy Stumpf's going to just drop some knowledge. If you don't know this guy, 17-year Navy SEAL vet, badass, world record holder, base jumper skydiver, skydive instructor.
Serta mattress
spokesman. But and a good friend of ours. But the theme of the symposium is knowledge is power, right? And it is. The more you know, the more power you have, the more influence you can make. And in addition to that, the crew will be speaking. We have a guy named Dr. Tom Incledon, who's the smartest motherfucker we know. We have his partner in crime at Causenta, which is his company, Dr. Christy Anderson. We have Lindsay Matthews from BirthFit, Bert Soren out of Sorenex, Derek Woodski
out of Canada.
We have Adam Nelson, Ingrid Markham, Raf Ruiz, a whole list of speakers. And we've assembled what we do is we're like, what event do we want to go to? And basically that's what we do. We build it, right? And so these are friends of ours, some of the sharpest people we've met, and they're going to be speaking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like I said, Austin, Texas. And we're using this as also a fundraising vehicle for a charity that we also run called Wade's Army, which is battling pediatric cancer. So if you're one of those guys like me, because I am a frugal dude, like I don't want to fucking spend any money on anything, but if I were to be able to go to an event and it was more of like I could exercise my philanthropy, all proceeds are going to the charity, right? We're not taking money. We're not buying a party barge. We're not going to fucking, install some epic oxygen bar. I don't know where that one came from. We're going to work on that. But so literally all proceeds are going to the charity. These guys are volunteering their time to come out and speak, and it's going to be an epic event. Tickets are available at powerathletehq.com/symposium. And there's going to be some awesome products there on silent auction as well. We got Sorenex, Power Dot, Thorn supplements, Hate Brain Goods, all these guys who are helping us make this event possible. Got to thank those guys as well. But yeah, that's all. That's what I got to say about that. So.
And what I'm just going to say to y'all too is I go to conferences. So I go to NEWSDZ's Coaches Conference and then CSCCA every year. And what essentially that becomes is networking, and I just recruit podcast guests.
Right.
So the lineup that Luke just mentioned, that sounds pretty fucking good. Right. I'm just going to throw it out there for y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So continued education, you may learn a thing or two, but then it's an opportunity to connect in person with all these people versus email, make that connection, and then you can have more genuine conversations on the line.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
And I guess speaking of continuing education, this kind of parlays into this is all experiential and truly it's not a dull fucking strength and conditioning conference that Tex loves to go to because that shit blows. Okay. This event has character, but if you're into the boring shit, no, I'm just kidding. If you are looking for continuing education and you're scratching your head like, man, these fucking guys and this Primal movement athleticism thing, I think I'm into that. We offer a course called the Power Athlete Methodology course, which is, we're working on this 3-part series. We have level 1 out, ready to take. It's a 16 to 20 hour commitment depending on how fast you read. We got 9 sections, 44 lessons, 5+ hours of video lecture. We have written a manual that is over 40,000 words, something like that. And the goal is to just add a little bit of character to this continuing education that can be a very dry subject, right? I mean, some of this shit is hard to read, I'm told. I don't read. Tex does it for me. Literally reads out loud to me at night, sitting next to my bed. No, literally, Tex.
I knew it.
But again, going back to we want to create the event that we would want to go to. we wanted to create a continuing education course that would be worth it, and you're not sitting there just like, oh God, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
So that is go for it, Tex.
Just to pile on and beat this dead horse, but it is CEUs, so 1.5 NSCA CEUs. Right now, it's a recertification year. So if you can get in the course right now, do it and finish it before December 31st.
Oh,
if
God.
not, then just get a 1.5, which is a freaking boatload, right? Going to a conference, you get 2. So this will, it's almost in line with going to the NSCA conference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I took all the most valuable things from my intern, coaching, traveling experience, and then put it on an online. So we have networking. We limit each class to 100 people, and then we force y'all to interact, discuss the topics, discuss different things that make you think about the topics in a different way. So we bring in, leadership. How can you apply these principles to developing leadership in the weight room, locker room, whatever it is? So all different things which will increase your ability to apply the things we discuss in your particular situation. We are, like Luke discussed, the 3 levels, taking the life cycle of the athlete approach. So this particular course right now just focuses on the novice athlete. And the majority of the strength and conditioning coaches or sport coaches out there, we set you up to, in real time, apply this program as we are unfolding it and unlocking it. So we're almost guiding you, providing the direction, right? It's not just giving you a program for you to just make make interpretations off of. No, it's exactly what to do in real time. Like the coaching step-up videos, imagine that for all 7 primal movements and then the movements that are within the bedrock program that it's connected to. So it is meant for the frugal coach who can't afford to go do an unpaid internship. Well, let's teach you everything you need to know right now on the fly so you can apply it to empower your athlete's performance. Or the intern, right? So you don't get intimidated walking into the Division I weight room as a D3 All-Star. You have a solid foundation for you to start to see this stuff unfold and really dive into it deep, because observation is extremely powerful. But if you don't know what to look for, you are way behind. And then the networking, right? That limited to 100 people, they become your lifeblood. And then we've seen it in real time when we invite 10, 15, 14 guys from the course that took it together out to our ranch. They're already brothers, and even though they never met until that day, it's a cool thing to experience. And we are essentially, this is where we start world domination, is just making this connection on basic concepts that are that can be applied to any sport, because our focus, our filter is athleticism versus one lift or one sport.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
And then how about social media? Where can people find both of you? And then where can people find Power Athlete?
Well, Power Athlete is, if you just give Power Athlete to Google, we should be all over it. But at Power Athlete HQ, right? And Power Athlete on Facebook is where you'll find the good stuff. And then if you want the real boring stuff, text is at McQuilkin, McQuilkin, right?
Correct.
So that's the boring stuff. And you want the hot fire? Here's where you go. Yeah, it's so hot, I put the in front of my fucking name. THE, the Luke Summers, LUKESUMMERS. I swear I'm not a douche.
I don't know, man.
Why do you put that disclaimer?
Yeah,
that makes you sound like
a disclaimer.
Exactly.
I don't know. Self-deprecation, I guess.
That's like when people are about to say a super offensive thing and they're like, no offense, but.
But.
All right, guys. Luke, Tex, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will hopefully talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Want more of the Strength Students podcast? Go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher. Stitcher, I just met her. And welcome back. That was Tex McQuilkin and Luke Summers from Power Athlete Radio. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That was definitely a fun episode, as you guys can tell. We got to talk about a lot of their background and Power Athlete's background. We touched on John Wellborn a little bit, that's a dude who knows what he's talking about, man. So their training principles and their 7 primal movements, something that I was super interested in. I'm glad we kind of got to bring to you guys. So yeah, hope you guys liked that episode. Before we wrap it up here, just some last announcements. as always, we want to thank all you guys for listening. We appreciate all of our listeners, all of our viewers, all of our YouTube viewers and such. And just a reminder to go check us out on social media, man. Go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, @StrengthStudentsPodcast. Go to our YouTube page, @StrengthStudentsPodcast. There's plenty of great free content on there, training content and other episodes and things like that. Make sure you guys could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review on Stitcher, and leave us a little feedback. That'd be awesome. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. By the time this episode's out, it'll be, it should be Wednesday, so Thursday will be Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Make sure you guys remain thankful, and we will see you next episode. Deuces. Want more of the Strength Students podcast? Go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher. Stitcher, I just met her.